Thank you, Madam Chair, for allowing me to catch your eye in this very important debate. I want to congratulate first the Honourable Member for Rochdale on a really excellent maiden speech, and I hope I can match the very high bar that has been set by Honourable Members on all sides so far today. I would first like to start by paying tribute to my predecessor, Sir Greg Knight. Sir Greg, and I'm very fortunate to be following him, was a very well-liked and respected former member of this House. His parliamentary career spanned 5 decades, and he served as a minister in the governments of Thatcher, Major and Cameron. He was first the member for Derby North from 1983 to 1997 and excelled in the roles of Deputy Chief Whip and Minister for Industry. He then returned to this place in 2001 for the then constituency of East Yorkshire, which has gone on to become Bridlington and the Wolds, and was re-elected on 5 separate occasions until his retirement this year. He served for a second stint in the Whip's office during the coalition years and worked tirelessly behind the scenes on many of Parliament's less fashionable committees. I will always aspire to match Sir Greg's dedication and integrity in public life, but there is one area, Madam Chair, in which I will never be able to compete with him, and that is, of course, the election campaign jingle. And for any honourable members who are unaware of his unique impact in this area, I wholeheartedly recommend a quick internet search after today's debate. More seriously, Sir Greg was rightly rewarded with a knighthood for his service to this place, and I want to place on record my thanks for his support and friendship in recent months, and I wish both he and Lady Janet a very happy and well-deserved retirement. I now have the unbelievable privilege of representing my home constituency of Bridlington and the Wolds, and it is truly the greatest honour of my life. I'm sure you will agree, Madam Chair, that there is no finer county than Yorkshire, and nowhere showcases it better than the East Riding. From the stunning cliffs of the world-famous seabird colony at Bempton and Flamborough Head, to the golden sandy beaches stretching from Bridlington to Hornsey, and the rolling hills and picture-book villages of the Wolds. Each of the 4 towns in the constituency has its own unique appeal. Bridlington is the largest shellfish landing port in the UK and the lobster capital of Europe. It attracts millions of visitors every year and is home to many thousands of people who have retired to the area, and I will always fiercely defend our local pensioners. Driffield, my hometown, is the capital of the Wolds, or capital of the world, as I thought it said on the road sign as a child, and is home to one of the largest one-day agricultural shows in the country. Hornsey boasts not only a beautiful coastline, but also the largest freshwater lake in Yorkshire. And Market Wheaton was once home to William Bradley, believed to be the tallest person ever to have lived in this country at 7 foot 9 inches tall, and to whom the town pays tribute every year on Giant Bradley Day. I do not wish to test your patience, Madam Chair, by singing the praises of all the many villages and hamlets across my constituency, but it would be remiss of me not to mention Nafferton, where I grew up, and Wansford, where I now live. Both are home to excellent local pubs, and if you do find yourself in the area, Madam Chair, I would be delighted to buy you a drink. Now, I hope to repay the faith placed in me by the electorate with hard work and diligence. I want to improve access to local health services, increase transport links, ensure access to high-speed broadband for all, and address the historic funding formula in education that disadvantages children in rural local authority areas. I am one of the few members who can claim to represent more pigs than people, and agriculture, fishing and tourism are the foundations of our local economy. If I can make our beautiful corner of Yorkshire a better place to live and work before I depart this place, I will, I hope, have done some good. And on that note, and returning, if I may, to today's debate, privatisation of the railways was necessary because British Rail was not working. It did not work for rail users, and it did not work for the British taxpayer. The process of privatising rail operators, however, has not been perfect, in part due to franchises operating monopolies no different to the nationalised services they replaced. However, where genuine competition exists, rail privatisation has been a success. On the East Coast Main Line, the government-subsidised franchise, LNER, competes with open-access operators Hull Trains, Grand Central and Lumo. It has led to cheaper prices for users, high satisfaction, greater punctuality, and intercity services have extended to new towns and cities across Yorkshire and the North East. One of those operators, Hull Trains, now runs 2 direct services a day between Beverley and London, and I would love to see that extended to include Bridlington and Driffield just up the line in my constituency. However, this legislation puts these efficient, non-subsidised, open access operators under threat. Instead of learning the lessons of these success stories and expanding them across the network, this government is siding back to the 1970s nostalgic vision of public services that were, in fact, inefficient and expensive to both rail users and the public purse. The failure in this legislation to provide specific guarantees to open access operators will mean there is no incentive to invest in new rolling stock or expand their services. We need more open access, not less. Now, ministers claim there is a continued role for open access operators where they add value and capacity to the network, but they will soon be at the mercy of an entirely nationalised infrastructure and provider. Do ministers not realise that a reborn British Rail will only work for passengers if its intercity services face stiff open access competition across the network? The East Coast Main Line is a mature and successful test case, and it should be expanded. Otherwise, what incentive will there be for a new British Rail to deliver cheaper and better services? None, I suspect, Madam Chair. Now, this legislation, in conclusion, is as rushed as it is ideological, and the only losers here will be rail users and the taxpayer.
I call Paul.